Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a review of Cyclops' new uniform, but before we talk about that, I got to talk about the audio and the video changes. Now, my voice might sound a little bit different, and you might hear some background noises. I apologize for that. I'm in a hotel right now. Additionally, the lighting is a little odd, of course, because I'm not in the regular, home studio that I have. So I'm probably not going to use my camera for the next few videos, but I did want to make at least one so you guys can get curious and start, speculating on where I am and what I'm doing. Am I at the NETMARBLE headquarters? Am I somewhere else? Have I finally been tracked down and kidnapped by Jonathan? Who knows? But as soon as I can tell you guys about all the fun stuff that I'm up to, I will. And hopefully you do find it fun. But now let's jump into Cyclops, because he does get a very large bump from this uniform, but myself and other people feel as though it's not enough. And the first thing I want to do is clarify something that was released not too long ago, maybe yesterday or the day before, regarding, a small patch, a small update that was released to the game that fixed some problems, some of them being danger room connectivity issues, and one of them being with Cyclops' first skill, Blazing Kick. And it said that it applied ignore targeting, which originally wasn't there. Now, ignore targeting is a really fancy NETMARBLE word for iframe. So basically what they said is that they were supposed to give an iframe to his first skill, but for whatever reason it didn't apply and it wasn't there, and so they added it. That's not a buff, okay? You're never going to use Cyclops' first skill, just to be very clear. His first skill is terrible damage, it's just terrible, it's awful, there's no self-buff, the burn damage is useless, it's just garbage. So you're never going to use his first skill, so making it an iframe doesn't matter at all, and it's not even an instant iframe. It's an iframe at the end of the skill, so it's even more useless. So just basically ignore that. But he still does get a very large upgrade. He gets a guard hit on his second skill. He gets all his skills changed to flame damage, which does affect his effectiveness in World Boss. We'll talk about that. He gets some penetration and some all speed down on his third skill, which is basically just for Shadowland because it doesn't apply to world bosses. His fourth skill is exactly the same, and then his fifth skill does get some nice stuff, but again, it only applies to to Shadowland, and it's only for 3 seconds, so it's pretty pointless. And he does get 5 seconds of immunity and a 20% heal. So he basically just gets a 20% heal here on this fifth skill, but then he also has the double energy attack on his passive. But despite not having that many changes to his actual skills, he does get a pretty large bump from any of his other uniforms. It's just that he was pretty much terrible before, so getting a large bump from being terrible might not put you much higher than, slightly above average. Additionally, his uniform effect doesn't really change anything else. It just enhances his 4-star passive and his tier 2 passive, but the tier 2 passive is only a 4% increase, which is basically negligible. And sorry, right here, and it gives him a 10% fire damage buff as well, which again is pretty negligible. But in order to build him out for this specific testing, I went ahead and gave him a guard break, fire damage, 140 proc. I strongly believe that if you're going to be playing Cyclops against World Boss Ultimate, you're going to need to either give him lots of dodge so he can avoid getting guard broken, or you're going to need to give him guard break immunity. I've seen a lot of people recommend a CTP of energy, but it's extremely frustrating when he gets guard broken because it interrupts his fifth skill. It interrupts basically all of his skills except for his third skill. He gets guard broken on 5, he gets guard broken on 4, he gets guard broken on 2. It's complete garbage. I think NETMARBLE needs to at least patch in a buff for Cyclops and give him super armor. I think that's an absolute necessity for a character that they refuse to give iframes, and a character that they give, a walking immunity without an iframe. Either make the fifth skill an iframe or give him super armor. It's really straightforward. Otherwise, I would strongly recommend, for your own sanity, either tons of dodge, which might benefit a CTP of rage, but that's too expensive, or just something like this. I honestly don't think he's worth your CTP of energy unless you're getting him for tier 3, and if you're tier 3ing him, you might as well go with a rage, but that's up for debate still, or possibly a CTP of destruction, because it also has the guard hit, or sorry, the guard break, the proc, and the crit damage. The rest of his gear, Power of Angry Hulk, is for the attack speed, which is quite important, and then I've got 5-star energy attack with some 4-star crit damage and crit rate. We're looking at 41 and change and 172, and then capped on the ignore defense cooldown with almost capped attack speed. So now we're going to jump into some content here so you guys can see the problem with the changes for Cyclops. They are good changes, but the problem with these changes is it basically bottlenecks Cyclops, because he can't do Proxima Midnight very well because he doesn't deal physical damage. He can do Corvus because of the ignore dodge that he has, but he will take a penalty as a blast type. He can't really do Cull Obsidian. I mean, he couldn't do Cull Obsidian before, but he can't really do Cull Obsidian now because for some reason there is elemental damage reduction. There appears to be. He doesn't perform nearly as well against Cull Obsidian as he does for any other world boss. He's not very good against Thanos, to be perfectly honest with you, at least at tier 2. So I'm pretty much saying if you don't have a tier 3 Cyclops, if you're just purchasing this uniform to upgrade your Cyclops as is, you're only really going to be doing 1, maybe 2 world bosses with him, but that is an upgrade over the 0 that you were doing before with any of his prior uniforms. So we're going to jump into some Ebony Maw here so you can see he actually does quite well. I think with Strikers, I can probably go up to 55, which is pretty impressive. And we'll showcase his damage without Strikers afterwards, but I do want to show him off with Strikers first. This is a pretty ideal situation. I almost made that mistake. This is a pretty ideal situation for him. Remember, he's a villain, so he can't use Coulson's buff, can't use Wave's buff to bring up his damage, but we are going to use his leadership here, and then we are going to use the Strikers. Now, specifically against Ebony Maw, you do need to keep in mind that mind control and charm is really, really important. And it's really, really important because Ebony Maw will otherwise dodge. He'll dodge you by going into iframes, he'll dodge you by interrupting your attacks, and especially for Cyclops, you know, his 4th skill doesn't do very good damage, his 2nd skill doesn't do very good damage, and his 1st skill doesn't. And you're never going to use his 1st skill. So you're basically only using 5 and 3 to deal damage. So if those skills get interrupted, you're in a lot of trouble against him. But we want to proc on 5 here. We missed the proc on 5, so we're going to go into 4 and then 3. It's a pretty smooth rotation, just 4 and 3, but you do risk triggering your proc a little bit early because the 5th skill has a pretty long cooldown. It's like 7.5 seconds, so it could be off in some situations. But otherwise, you're just trying to proc on 5 here, trying to get those Strikers to come in and do their work, paralyze him, mind control him, just put him in any sort of stasis so that you can continue dealing damage to him. But you'll see a pretty big drop off in your damage if you don't proc on the 5th skill, and you can see there we're kind of just chipping him down. His 5th skill without the proc does pretty much the same damage as his 4th skill with the proc, which should probably tell you all you need to know about the damage. But you can see when I do manage to land on the 5th skill with the proc, the damage is actually quite nice. It's just a matter of, there we go, it's just a matter of actually hitting it on the proc. But this is a good upgrade, no doubt, for Cyclops. It's just that it's a very one-dimensional upgrade. Unfortunately, I don't see Cyclops being able to do any other world boss at nearly this high of a level. I mean, I would put his proficiency with Strikers for Cull Obsidian somewhere in like the 35 to 40 range max. So he drops anywhere from 10 to 20 levels compared to Ebony Maw, and that has to do with basically 2 factors. For one, Ebony Maw, you know, the Strikers against him are very good because not only do they give you mind control, but they also deal elemental damage, which is just kind of a coincidence, but it's a good coincidence. You know, Scarlet Witch, Psylocke, not Weapon Hex, but you know, the 2 new Strikers that we have here, Jean Grey with the 2-second time freeze. A lot of those same characters can kind of double dip. Whereas with Cull Obsidian, you can't really get the mind control to even work in the first place because of the fact that he has cleanse and he has sort of debuff duration reduction, so he won't actually stay debuffed for the full amount of time in most of the cases. But you can see we're getting this done. So, you know, Cyclops going from not being able to do any world boss higher than like a stage 20 with a maxed out raid level and crazy cards, jumping up and being able to do a stage 55 against one world boss is very impressive. I do have to say that. It's just, I feel as though Netmarble didn't take the time to realize that the saturation level for Ebony Maw World Boss is basically at an all-time high. You're getting the deluxe pack, you're getting Psylocke for the one clear of Ebony Maw automatically. Psylocke is an amazing character to kill Ebony Maw. Jean Grey, even without the uniform, at level 70, she can also kill Ebony Maw, so you've got 2 right there, and these are both, again, premium characters. Also blast types. Everyone gets Luna Snow nowadays. Guess what? Luna Snow is also really good for Ebony Maw. So right away, as a brand new player, I mean, you already can get 2, I mean, not as a brand new player, but you're going to spend your first 6,000 crystals on Psylocke, and you get your first premium characters, Luna Snow. So within, you know, a couple of months of playing, you can already have 2 out of 5 of the best killers for Ebony Maw World Boss Ultimate. Then you can factor in other characters. You can bring in Storm, you could bring in Human Torch. These are free characters that you can farm for, and it's just, you know, there's just a really large, there's already a huge group of characters, even Thor, that can do Ebony Maw. Why would you need this uniform just to get another character that can do Ebony Maw? But I don't want to sell Cyclops too short. I do think he needs a buff, let me be very, very clear. But I don't think you're going to be getting a bad uniform. It's just that you don't need the uniform because you already have so many other characters that can do what he does as well as he does, or better. You know, Psylocke without a uniform is as good against Ebony Maw as Cyclops with a uniform at Legendary. So that's something to consider. Psylocke with the uniform, she's going up to 60, 65 without a CTP. So that is, you know, something you want to compare it to. However, I do need to highlight how much better he is as a standalone character, because for all the crapping that I'm doing, I do need to acknowledge that he was really bad before, and he's really not that bad anymore. Now, he's not going to blow you away. He's not going to compete with most of the other Blast Tier 3s, in my opinion. But while Cyclops is not going to compete with the other Tier 3 Blast type characters, competing with himself and his old uniforms is a pretty easy thing to do because of how much better he gets. Not only does he get a ton more damage, wow, I really didn't proc my obelisk on those hits. Not only does he get a ton more damage, but he also gets a ton more survivability, so that even if you take damage in between getting hit, you know, if it doesn't kill you, you're going to be able to recover 20% of your HP every 7 seconds. And that's not a small amount to consider when you consider, you know, the fact that before he basically had no way of healing himself whatsoever. So even though we missed most of these procs and we had, you know, Iron Man kind of being a douche and kind of dodging us, we're able to kill him. And, you know, man, we literally have not hit a single, there's the iframe at the end of this kill. We literally have not hit a single proc this entire time. We're able to kill him in about 50 seconds. Now let's go back and let's switch over to one of his other uniforms. Now keep in mind, he does have both villain and hero uniforms, so you can really be flexible with your build for Shadowland for Cyclops, but we'll go with the same one at Legendary again. We just need to tweak one of the stats here. Give me a second to swap over his HP to ignore defense so that we can cap out on all of the stats in the same way as before. That's pretty much identical to the one he had here. And now we're going to go back into that Shadowland stage, and you're going to see that that 50 seconds is quickly going to turn into, I don't know, possibly the full 3 minutes. And some people will complain that Cyclops lost his optic barrage type skill because he doesn't have this sort of infinite attack animation anymore. And I mean, it is really hilarious to see the enemies getting caught in this attack over and over and over again. And you can literally do this, put your phone down and go and take a walk, put on a coffee, put on some tea, like put on a pot of water for tea. You can go and do anything for a few minutes here while he's sitting blasting away. You do need to position yourself carefully, and Iron Man and Hulkbuster are kind of being annoying and making it hard for me to do so. But once you get them both trapped in the beam like this, you can do it. But you can see here, there's two problems. One, I took a whole bunch of damage setting this up, so it may take multiple tries. Two, as you can obviously see, the damage is a lot worse. We're about to kill Hulkbuster in the time it took me to kill Hulkbuster and Iron Man, missing pretty much, you know, 70% of my procs on his 5th skill, whereas all of my damage here is on his 5th skill. There's no heal. It's much more boring. It's not really playing the game. It's as close as you can get to Autoland playstyle, and it takes, as you can see, you know, we're on to 20 seconds longer. We're going to be here maybe 25 seconds longer with all of the procs hit. So that 50 seconds could definitely be shortened down. It's probably 30 to 40 seconds longer, possibly double the amount of time. So yes, they did roughly, I would say, double his damage, and they did give him the ability to do at least one world boss competently, even at level 60 with this uniform. However, it just begs the question, why? Why do we need Cyclops? Yes, he's a blast villain. Yes, he's good for ABX for those players who are interested in that or who have to do that. But for everybody else, I honestly think that this is a uniform you can pass on. It looks beautiful, which is a shame because it really frustrates me when Netmarble creates uniforms that look beautiful visually and have beautiful skills, but then they have no punch to back them up. This is like Thing all over again. The skills look amazing. They obviously took time. Final Phoenix Beam is beautiful. It's straight out of the comics, I believe. And even like Laser Wing Strike is great. Phoenix Punch is great. But then he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that Phoenix power. he seems like, you know, he got 1/5 of the 1/5. So he got 1/25 of the Phoenix Force instead of the 1/5 that he was supposed to get. So I strongly urge Netmarble to buff Cyclops in some way. Give him a skill that gives him like 25% all attack, 25% crit rate, like you give to pretty much every other new character nowadays that has a skill in the game. Like you're so happy for these buffs, but you just won't give them to Cyclops. Or give him some other sort of buff, give him super armor, give him some extra damage, something more to make him unique, something more to make him more viable and valuable for other game modes than just ABX whales and people who like the Phoenix Saga. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of Cyclops. Hopefully, they will release an update and a patch for him to make him better so that I can do an updated review. If not, we still have the other members to kind of glow over, especially my big boy, Colossus. I was going to say Cyclops. Again, Colossus. Yeah. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again later today. Take care.